Welcome to the Engaged at Any Age Summit. I'm Jackie Sabrin, your host, and I am so pleased to introduce to you a fabulous expert, Mary Kaptyne. Welcome, Mary Jane. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Jackie. I'm so excited.
Yes, I'm thrilled to have you as a speaker because when I read your bio and read about you, you really hit the topic, the hot topic for today, spot on. And so I want to read a little bit about you and what you've done in your work, and then we can jump into the interview. How's that sound?
Fabulous.
Okay, so you are, the question you ask is, are you too nice? You're a love and dating coach, and you support nice gals and nice guys to stop dating missteps that sabotage their chances at love. I love that. And you are a recovered nice girl, and you made every relationship mistake you can think, mostly dating emotionally unavailable men. And I know that resonates with a lot of women. You've settled for less, and you've gave too much. And you know that the pain for loving too much and being a doormat and trying too hard to make love happen ends up in sabotaging yourself. And so you stopped the madness and found your soulmate at 40. Congratulations. And now you share how to stop being a pushover and bring out the strong, confident, and worthy you. I am so thrilled about the work that you've done and for being here today. Thank you. And congratulations, your soulmate at 40. That's very exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting, and I got a double whammy. I got two soulmates because I have my beautiful baby, Adam, who is 11 months old, who is the absolute second biggest love of my life. Like, he is amazing. So I feel like I won the love lottery.
You absolutely did, and so these strategies that you are going to share with everyone do work, and your life is proof of that. So I'm very excited that you shared that, and I want to see a picture of your baby boy when we're done with the interview. But let's dive into it. I love our hot topic, why the nice girl doesn't get the guy. That's great. And so how do you define nice, and isn't it good to be nice?
You know, it is good to be nice, and I never want to lose that warm-hearted, big-hearted, generous, loving, kind aspect of who I am, and I encourage my clients to keep that. The problem with nice gals and nice guys is that we're too nice. You know, it really comes from this place of, I must be this way, I have to try harder and be more and do more, because there's this underlying idea that I might not be enough, he might not like me, I might get rejected, I might not be okay, it might not work out, please be the one, I really hope you'll be the one. And, you know, it brings off this energy of, like, anxiety and pressure and this trying too hard energy, you know, just because we want it so much. You know, one thing I know about nice girls and nice gals is that we wear our hearts on our sleeves, and when we like somebody or we like anything, we're super passionate about it, and we're kind of dive all the way in, and we just open our whole hearts, and that's great in some things, like passionate work, but it's not always so great at the beginning of a relationship. So it's kind of like if we went on a date with a guy and he wanted to sleep with us when he hasn't even bought us dinner, we might be a little bit upset. And so sometimes, you know, the big-hearted gals and guys, we just open our hearts way too big, too fast, and we try to make a connection go all the way into the love dream that we have for ourselves rather than dial it down. And so there's a reason why nice gals don't get the guy, and it's because we're too giving, so we get taken advantage of. We're seen as a pushover. We're too agreeable, so we become a doormat. We're too understanding, so we become this naive dreamer who, you know, I'm just going to turn him into the one if he's not. I'm going to make this magical idea that, you know, I can either fix him or change myself or change him or pretend that it's not, you know, that this is the relationship of my dreams when it really isn't. Or we're so accepting, we become the fixer, the rescuer, the settler.
Well, so many of those things, and I can't speak for everyone, but I know that at times in my own life, and I know this, I'm sure it resonates with other women, we've all been in that position at one point or another. And do you feel, I know this isn't the list of questions, but when you trace that, you did some work on why that you were behaving that way, what, and others, what's the common denominator? Why we do that? Why we are the pushover? Why we jump in too fast?
Yeah, why do women at all do people please or want to be liked, right? So we're really programmed to belong, to be included, to be accepted, and that's part of our social structure as women, and so it's even more important to a nice gal who might have either felt like she didn't fit in or she didn't belong. A lot of my clients have been bullied. They were overweight. They felt like the odd duckling. I had an afro. Thanks, Mom, for not knowing what to do with my curly hair. So, I just felt this geeky, tall, skinny girl who had this crazy afro and glasses. It became popular later, but it wasn't when I was growing up. And, so there's a sense of like just not being enough. And also too, abuse in the past, distant or absent parents, whether they were physically distant or emotionally distant, or that first love, that first love template that you end up falling for the wrong guy really early on, and that he sets the template for every other guy that you're attracted to after that. It's like you're trying to fix that initial wound of being rejected or being hurt or, chasing after that guy. And by the way, every woman, if you fall madly crazy head over heels, chemistry, massive attraction, in love with a guy, you might fall into these behaviors because, especially if he sets you on the you have to chase me game. He's going to trigger a lot of psychological things back in that reptilian brain that make women just do insane things, and we've all done it. Stalked a guy, called him too much, please don't leave me kind of stuff, whatever it was. Let me change. I'm going to, not hang out with my girlfriends, forget that I have a life, avoid. I mean, there's every extreme from one end, to the subtle, just small accommodations over time that can cause a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you first addressed that you said, and you went through your own life, your childhood, your hair. It all does stem from our parents, and it's not making them right, wrong, good or bad. It's just that things do happen to children, and it affects us, and then we carry those things into our adulthood, and that's when the dysfunction really shows up in our relationships. So good that you were able to chase that back, and you can see, it does explain that.
So wherever that I'm not good enough stuff comes in, creates a larger, what I call larger fear factor. And, I mean, everything from, simple rejections to not feeling like you fit in school to childhood abuse, which I also suffered and grew up in foster care for a lot of period of my life as well. So and I know that people relate to that, being assaulted. There's women who've been sexually assaulted either in adulthood or in childhood who, carry those I'm not good enough scars. Or your sister's better than you and you're always comparing yourself to somebody else. It doesn't matter where it comes from, whether you consider it dramatic or not, it's your wound. And it's that I'm not good enough message that women carry into the relationship. And so it creates this massive fear factor where, oh no, now if this person doesn't like me, we care so much about what someone else thinks. We're looking outside for his validation, for our sense of worth and well-being by how we're included or whether we're chosen by that man. I always wanted to be chosen. I don't know if you relate to that, but I was like, just pick me. And sometimes I was chasing after the guy that I thought, are you insane? You wouldn't even really like him if you weren't just so worried that if he liked you. That's the insanity part. And so we lose so much of our power and so much for ourselves. And really that's my message, like, stop losing yourself to be liked, accepted, or loved. That you are innately worthy, and to claim that worth and to stand in that power, to have your values and your standards and your boundaries come from that stand place of, I deserve to be happy, I'm worthy, I deserve only the best, and to really own that. So then everything changes, and that fear factor, that pressure, that anxiety, that I have to meet the one, I should have met him by now, tick tock, my clock, right? Like once I got over the I'm not good enough stuff, I just had the pressure of walking into every date worried about whether my ovaries still worked and whether I was going to meet someone in time, and whether I meant to or not. That was pressure I put on my shoulders. Well, every single man could just smell that vibe. They just smell it. They sniff out that desperate vibe or that fear-based vibe, and that's why the nice gal never gets the guy, because he just goes, whew, this girl's going to be a lot of work. This already feels like pressure to me.
Yeah, yes. And so why does being too nice, I know you just covered a lot, but let's break it down a little bit even further. Yeah. Why is being too nice to men and in relationships kind of self-sabotaging?
Yeah. So two things. If the nice gal goes on a date with a not so great guy, he goes, goody, this girl will bend and shape herself to please me, and I'm going to coax her along and take advantage. Not cool, right? So that poor nice gal gets, used, sometimes sexually, sometimes otherwise. Sometimes she's the BFF or the go-to or the filler girl, as I call it, in between him finding a great girlfriend and that nice gal gets dumped the minute he finds something better, which again is another blow to her self-esteem, which makes it more frightening for her to get back into the dating world again and to open her heart. The other part of that is the nice gal who, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. You were making a great point about how just being, I love that you said the filler girl. So
Yeah.
until he finds somebody great, it's like, and then that becomes like a pattern. And I wanted to ask you about like over dating. So if you date guys that you're the filler girl, you're not the girlfriend, and the girlfriend,
Yeah.
isn't it going to continue to perpetuate itself again and again, because like you said, you already don't feel good, you weren't chosen, you're not the chosen one, so then you go out and you kind of already have that knock against you, and how does that continue to perpetuate itself?
Well, also, that nice gal gets very guarded after a while, so she starts to shrink into herself. She doesn't feel safe to be all of who she is. She's not trusting her decisions. She's not trusting that she's good enough. She's not trusting that she won't just become that. So she's seeking love, and at the same time, she's repelling it because she's pulling away from it. And so, oh right, and there was my point. So if the nice girl goes out with a nice guy, he just says, this is drama. Like, this girl doesn't feel confident in herself. She's kind of being guarded. I sense a duplicity in her. She's not fully showing all of who she is. So either the nice gal is really hiding, or she's putting so much out there that he's like, whoa, this is too much too soon, right? And so he begins to get that vibe that she might be emotionally, what I call an emotional heavyweight.
Mhm.
That he's going to have to carry the burden of making her feel validated, making her feel enough, being okay. And I'm sorry, but a guy who's really confident, secure in himself, who's a high value catch, it isn't going to be inspired by that. He's going to think, that he's got a dependent, and it's going to feel like work. It's not going to inspire him to open his heart and relax and be playful and get into, heart space love for her. He's just going to go, oh, this is a lot of effort. So
Right.
her insecurity is going to come out with a really great guy, and she's going to gravitate towards just allowing herself to soak up any attention that she can get from the not so great guy, because something is better than nothing, although she's still kind of guarded with that too, and then really doesn't trust herself after a while, because who she attracts and who she's attracted to isn't healthy for her.
Right. And so you were talking earlier and in your bio, how did this really affect you and in the relationships you had, and what did you do to change it?
Wow, yes, quite the journey. I think the first awareness was realizing, because of the childhood that I had, I was in a very long tenure common law kind of relationship, and I kind of felt like the plant in the corner but I wasn't even watered most of the time. I just sort of felt like I was this benign object in the corner, and I didn't know any different. I know that sounds really terrible, but I don't think I knew that I should have been with someone who wasn't so withholding, who might actually would be my friend, who would be on my side, who would not be kind of subtly critical. So it wasn't an abusive situation. I thought I'd really achieved a lot because I didn't choose that. But it was emotionally deprivating, right? I was starving. And that leads me to the other point of nice gals. Like, we're emotionally starving if we've had a series of bad relationships. We haven't filled up our cup. We don't feel that we don't come from that place of fullness. So even though I was, like a lot of women, very confident in my work, competent, confident, take no prisoners kind of energy, and had it all together there, I really in the love life would just sort of lose myself in a man. And it wasn't that I lost doing those things. I didn't ask for enough. I didn't get filled up in the relationship. And so I felt like I was emotionally starving. I left that relationship, had the courage to do that, and then started in the dating world, and was quite shocked at the challenges that I faced in dating. And I know we all know it, bad dates and mismatch, and I didn't know that I was falling for chemistry. I didn't know that I was choosing the imago pattern of my childhood in some cases. So I dated all across the spectrum, and it took 10 years. So after dating experience after dating experience after dating experience, I played the gamut all the way from the nice gal who gave too much, who was naive and overgiving, and just completely got taken advantage of by men, to being guarded, closed off, almost love avoidant, right? Because that's what happens after a while to a nice gal, is that we just start shutting down. We don't trust men. We don't trust ourselves. And had to find the healthy middle in there, right? Had to find trust in myself again. So yes, claiming that worthiness is a big piece. I know I'm kind of going into the next step of like, how do we fix that and where do we go next? But I think the biggest thing for me was realizing that I deserved to be happy, that I was innately worthy, and to build my own self-trust again. And trust also meant not only trusting me. So I always say you don't need to trust a man, you just need to trust yourself. Because if you trust you, you trust yourself to navigate dating, to make choices that align with your own happiness and your own well-being. And that's what I began to do, and that's what began to turn the corner for me. And I also did a lot of healing work on making sure that who I was attracted to, which was my pattern, withholding, emotionally unavailable men who couldn't fill me up, who I had no future with or might not be compatible with, or looked good on the surface and looked good on the list, but actually didn't make me feel happy and fulfilled. I stopped dating the bad boys, and I stopped dating the guys who just couldn't make me happy no matter how hard they tried. And started attracting totally different because I was different.
That's fantastic. And so this, when you said self-trust, I mean, it comes down to self-trust. And to become self-trusting, it's just like keeping your word to yourself, that you wouldn't, that you'd understood the type that you were attracting, and then making those shifts internally to change your alignment to something different. Your internal, dialogue must have changed significantly. Was there something that happened that was a catalyst along the way, or were you constantly over time improving?
I love that question. What a beautiful question, Jackie. Yes, yeah, yes, and yes, yes and no. I was improving steadily over time because I was getting more educated about the fact that there is a strategic way to date. There's a way to date so that you don't experience heartache. So you're not frustrated, so you're not challenged with all the dating foo-bars that can go on, right? You don't fall for chemistry, you start really looking at compatibility as well. So yes, all of those ways, absolutely. Constantly improving. My self-care and my self-love for me just was growing over time. And what I realized is that that wasn't something you just do once. It's something you do continuously, and that it's an investment in self. And I really created certain disciplines in my life that were really filling me up. So I wasn't coming from that emotional starvation place. Here's what's funny. I was absolutely at the height of my life. I was the happiest I was the most fulfilled. My career was doing well. Like, I felt really good about the girlfriends and the friends that I had in my life. And I met the most toxic man of my entire life, who I didn't realize was toxic until I was dove a little bit too deep into that relationship. And I went back into the gutter, probably the lowest that I've ever been. Took me a good year of some serious therapy, and Bali is a healing trip, and some really deep healing work to go back into healing some stuff in my childhood that I thought that I dealt with, but there was another deeper layer there. And it was that relationship that where I almost lost myself, and where the pain was so deep and so profound. And I had to look at, okay, I was a victim to this man, but how did I allow myself then to become a victim once I knew his true colors? Mm-hmm. And what was the piece that made me stop listening to my intuition? Because I was used to knowing things about people, like getting a mental intuition. I had a body intuition. And I hadn't experienced that in quite a long time, and I wasn't trusting my body. And my body was repulsed by him, and my head was convinced that everything I was seeing was perfect, which it did look perfect, but it wasn't. And so that horribly toxic, destructive relationship, and that real glimpse of knowing that I almost lost me entirely in it, was a big turnaround for me. And all of the TLC commitments came out of that. Always trust your intuition, whether you have knowledge to back it up or not. Always put your happiness first, and never lose your standards or your values for somebody else. So basically, don't lose yourself in a man. And I did it. I made the biggest love mistake ever, because I fell so deeply in love with him. And I say fall because I fell from the highest tower you can fall, and had to peel myself off the sidewalk and recover from those injuries. So yeah, the biggest mistake of my life into the biggest commitment to myself that has never unwavered since.
And it's always a catalyst for change. Either we change through pain or love. Either way, we're going to change. And it seems like when we do go through those painful relationships, that they are the catalyst. So I'm glad you were able to pick yourself back up off the sidewalk and be here today to share your journey. And I like that you said the self-care. I think that's a critical piece when we start to notice ourselves and start to care about ourselves, because you have to be your own best friend. If you don't show up for you, then how do you expect a man to show up for you? And men notice that right away if you're self-respecting and self-nurturing, self-loving. I think that men find that very attractive. It's not selfish whatsoever to be self-loving and self-supportive. And I know that's a beautiful quality. You can tell by just talking to you, you're radiating that. And so I have another question here for you. So you probably already covered this, but I have to ask, why do nice girls never get the guy? I mean, I know you pretty much said it, but let's go over it again in case, obviously if you're a really nice girl, you need to hear this more than once.
Yeah. And like I said, there's a lot of subtle ways that we can just come across too accommodating, a little bit too people-pleasing, right? A little bit too nice, down to not telling them that you're allergic to shellfish when you go to a seafood restaurant. It can be simple things of just leaning back and being maybe that shy nice girl who doesn't speak up and voice her own opinion or what's important to her, or the nice girl who's been hurt, so she's guarded and she doesn't let that shell come down. So a man feels like, well, there's a body over there and I see a person and their mouth is moving, but I'm not connecting with this woman heart to heart because she's not showing me who she is. Or the nice girl who's opposite, who's thrown her whole heart out there, and a man's going, whoa, that's too fast, too quick, and now I'm starting to feel overwhelmed, and I'm feeling the pressure and responsibility of having to caretake for you. So everything from being an emotional heavyweight to being a love avoidant who's guarded and maybe puts on a masculine shield because she's too afraid to let her sensitive, vulnerable heart out. Yeah, she freaks men out, basically. She either overwhelms them or she doesn't garner their respect or she can't inspire their love because they can't see who she is.
Yes. Oh, that's just so important for women to recognize that they're just bound in their own fear. Let me ask you this. So you say about women needing to, I mean, I know with the law of attraction, if you want love, you have to demonstrate self-love. If you want to have worthiness, you need to be worthy. How can a woman take steps to begin that process?
Yeah. So a couple things, and lead me back into it because there's another juicy part of it and that I think is important in my story and in the stories of my clients, which is, again, I was really self-worthy beforehand and I lost my worthiness along the way. So it's like our choices, our love choices, so who you pick and who you decide to welcome into your heart and into your space will either bring you to the heights of happiness or plummet you into despair. And so it's super important that we're careful about who it is that we are attracted to and who we attract, because you can do all this great personal development work on yourself and really get to that place of you're in that self-love place and you feel good and you know that you're worthy and you choose someone who you make choices with a man that puts you backwards to where you might have been in your past. So, but to answer your question, you only have to act worthy to feel worthy. That's the beautiful part. So I always tell people and give them the freedom of you don't have to feel it. So if you wake up and you feel, it's like when, like women, we have a fat day, and you just feel like, my pants don't fit well, I feel kind of, we have those days as women, but it doesn't actually mean that you're fat. You're just like feeling not so great that day or whatever it is. So you just have to do it anyway. You act as if you are, and you fill up that love cup, right? So the biggest thing is nice gals are needing to fill themselves up, because if you're not starving, you're not going to take scraps of love. And, that man that I fell head over heels for and had that toxic relationship with, he gave me the thing I was starving for. He was very, very, very smart, and he spoiled me rotten. But the biggest thing he gave me was what I had been lacking my entire life in relationships and in my childhood, which was to be paid attention to. And he filled that love need for me. And he filled it so strongly that I was willing to overlook other things or be harmed in other ways to actually get that, because I was so hungry for it. So in recognition of that is like, know what your love needs are and start filling them, because it makes you invulnerable to settling for anything less. It's kind of like if you're a vegetarian and you've been starving for a week and someone comes along with a burger, you're probably going to eat the burger. So you got to fill up that cup. And so your self-love practices and that acting worthy in order to feel worthy has to really be driven to the core need that you have inside of you, that you've been hungry for and that you probably haven't received in relationships in the past. So that piece is so filled up that you can be discerning and you can screen out men. And it can be more of I have a blog, it's one of my famous blogs, which is I like you, but I like me more. And so you get to that place where it's like, hey, I really like me, so like you better be the guy who makes me even like myself, fall in love with myself even more, and fall in love with my life even more, and fall in love with you even more in the process, so that you become the best that you absolutely could be because you're with that person. And I know you know what that experience is like.
Yeah, I love that you said that. I love you, but I love me more. And that is really where you need to get. And it's a very positive thing. It's not it's conveying that you are the priority, and that will glean a lot of respect from men when you have that much self-love, and your self-worth just goes skyrocket. I want to just touch on something, one more thing. Because I think it's really important, and I see it happening a lot with all the dating. And a part of the summit's about get off the dating roller coaster to fall madly in love. Women are dating a lot because we have online dating, and that's how I met my husband, by the way. And so,
wow, so there you go.
it worked. I met my husband. I'm married. I got married last year, but it's how much dating. If you're just going, I think it's really damaging to women and their self-esteem by the repetitive dating. So could you elaborate on what it can do with the good and the bad, with the pros and the cons to doing a lot of dating?
I love that. Yeah. So the first thing is that it can be really discouraging to go on bad dates. And I have a motto with my clients, like, no more bad dates. Heartache-free path to love should be joyful, should be playful. You should be so intact. And again, what's the most magnetic and beautiful and radiant part of a woman is she knows her value. She knows her value. She comes from that place. She has nothing to prove. She doesn't have to try hard to make love happen, because she not only trusts herself, but she trusts that the universe is on her side, that love is on its way, and she can relax. So it's not a high-pressured, high-anxiety kind of experience. So first of all, you don't want to try to make a guy the one, but you also don't want to go on a series of really crappy dates with men that you haven't pre-qualified. I'm really big about the screen, and especially online screening gives such an amazing opportunity to screen a relationship. So can I share a few things about how women can set up a date to be really awesome?
Yes, please do.
Okay, great. So the first thing is like screening them through the online process and taking them through a series of questions that are your pre-qualifiers. It should only be 3. So I have like 3 pre-qualifying questions. They're like the things that are the most important to you. So for instance, I wanted to have a partner who wanted a family. I wanted a child, so I wanted to obviously pre-qualify a man that he was wanting to have that. So that was one of my pre-qualifier questions. Yeah.
Is it on the phone, or is this into email? I mean, are you emailing, or are you talking on the...
This would be the part where you're just chatting. So I mean, I'd start with more conversational things, like, a more open-ended question, like, tell me 10 things about you that nobody else would know or that you think are really interesting. You can have like one of those kind of questions. But when you're getting to the part where you're about pre-date, and by the way, it should only be about 3 emails before he asks you out another. You don't want an online relationship. Okay. So when you get to that place, it's the qualifying those 3 top questions, and then I'm really hoping by then, he's done a qualifying question for you, because let me tell you that a guy who's serious about a relationship is going to qualify you as much as you're qualifying him, and that's a really good sign that you're on track. And then the thing that I always like to do with my clients, and I did when I was dating, because I didn't want to go on a bad date again, I had the pre-screened phone call. And I always had a separate phone, or like a phone that was not my business phone and anything else, so that I didn't have to worry about some creepy guy having my phone number. So you set up a different phone, prepaid cell phone, and you have a conversation. You set up a time to actually have a chat. And I can tell you that more than half of the men that you might be interested in that point are going to either out themselves or in themselves based on that phone call. Because either you have online chemistry and you don't have any offline chemistry, and you're just not feeling each other, which you'll know right away. If they're creepy, messed up, you're going to know really quick within like 5 minutes of that conversation. So that would be my biggest recommendation. Also, too, let's just say, you do have a guy, you have a nice connection, you have a great conversation. Now you're both at a really high comfort level. You're not going in on a cold date because you've actually built some rapport with each other. You've heard each other's voice, you feel a comfort level. So now when you go on the date and he goes on the date, you're excited for it. And then it's not a coffee date where he has to say, do I like this girl, is she okay? Or you're saying, do I like this guy, is he okay? Because you've already got that rapport bait. So now you can go on a date that you're excited to go on and that he is excited to go on, and then it's much more comfortable, much more relaxed, and a lot more fun, because at the beginning, that's all you're really looking for. Do I feel safe with this person? Am I comfortable? Are we having fun? Is he nice enough that I'm curious and I want to go on a second date with him? That's all you're thinking about for the first few dates, not is he my future husband. So take the pressure off and screen it so that you have a really successful date that you can be excited about. Because I hated getting my hair done and looking amazing and going on a really crappy date. Like, that's not fun.
Oh, I'm so happy that you broke that down. Screening is critical because you're right. Going on all these dates, you put a lot of effort into it to show up looking, putting your best foot forward, and just having not had those conversations, you really don't know what's in store for you, and neither do they. And so I just see there's so much value in, especially if you really want a relationship. Now, if you're just wanting to have fun and meet somebody, then you can take your chances, but time is of the essence, girls.
Well, and you're qualifying for them for not only are you going to have a successful date with them, but you're pre-qualifying them on those 3 questions of, do they want the same things as you? Do you feel in alignment? Is there a potential compatibility here that you can check out? And so then you can get into the, the communication piece and the, do I connect easily with this person? Is there a comfort level? Do we have chemistry? Is there a compatibility link? And then you can start to get in those pieces, but you only get to know that over time.
Yes, absolutely. So that's this interview is so chock full of great advice and strategies and tools that you can start right away. And I want to offer the audience take a moment to let everyone know that you can access Mary Jane's interview right away by upgrading to her interview, and for the whole summit for that matter. If you'd like to watch this interview at your leisure or all the interviews, just go to engaged@anyage.com/upgrade, and you'll have access to all the interviews and be able to really start incorporating them piece by piece. And another wonderful tool that you're going to get is Mary Jane's providing a beautiful gift for you. Will you tell us about that right now?
I love this gift. Okay, well, first of all, what I love about it is pretty. So women, we love the pretty, right? We want everything to look really gorgeous, and some of my amazing and most favorite and famous infographics are in there as well, too. But it's the 5 nice gal mistakes. And so there's more, but they're really the top 5. They're the ones that get us into trouble. So I just really drill down very specifically, where it is that we might be tripping ourselves up and blocking our ability to attract love. And, I want to get you out of your own ways. So you're not sabotaging, the potential when you meet an amazing guy. You're not tripping over those nice gal mistakes and sending the wrong signals out to him that he loses interest. Or again, you pick the wrong guy and he takes advantage. So I want you to never experience heartache again. And I want you to find the love of your life, because it's amazing to feel that loved and supported and accepted. And I certainly cultivated that within myself, and then I attracted that. And it was like a healing balm on top of all the healing work I'd already done, and it was an amazing it's still an amazing feeling, and everybody should have that.
Absolutely, and everybody can have it if they listen to your words of wisdom and follow your strategies. I strongly believe in everything you said, and I want to just thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be an expert on our summit, and I look forward to hearing from you, and I'm going to download your free gift. It's fabulous, and I'm sure that would maybe with some of my clients. So thanks again, and I want to thank the audience for being here. You've been wonderful. Here's to you and being engaged at any age. I'm Jackie Sabrin, and thanks for joining us. Thank you, Mary Jane.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.